Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today I'm going to be answering a question in the comments about embodiment. What is embodiment? How do we attain embodiment? And is this an organic, natural process that just occurs as we go through our awakening, right? In this case, I think the question was as we balance. So embodiment is a state of being. And I think we get the word being a little bit misunderstood. So let me sort of get into that first. So we can be something, which is a feminine energy, right? Which is more of an energy of receiving, of allowing, of flowing, of intuitiveness. The feminine polarity generally is in a state of being, a state of just accepting, a state of receptivity. The masculine polarity, and this is not gender specific, is generally in a state of doing, right? So the feminine polarity generally moves from emotion, right? Moves from feeling, whereas the masculine polarity moves from doing things. It's more of a logical aspect of things. How do I figure things out, intellectually? How do I understand this? How do I take this apart? So the masculine polarity generally moves from the mind, right? And so this is seen more as doing. I'm always doing things. I'm always busy. I'm always productive. I'm always going. And the feminine, right, is in the receiving end. I'm receiving things, so I'm just being. I'm being in my body, in my awareness, in my receptivity. So the two of these coming together obviously creates the balance within everyone, right? So this is the emotional body and the mental body working in balance, working in tandem. So when I'm saying embodiment, what I mean in that way is that it just becomes your natural state, right? You come back into your natural state of being. So the embodiment is, this is what I am now, as opposed to I'm trying to think my way into something. So I think a better way for me to probably explain this is we can talk about, you can understand something and then you can embody something. So understanding, again, is a mental concept. Understanding something is, here are all the graphs, here's the whole breakdown of how this whole thing works, here's the science behind it, here's the physics behind it, however we want to say it, and we can look and see how all of these things work. And so now I understand this mentally, right? So I can understand a whole slew of things mentally, but still not embody that energy. So on the other side of that, the embodiment is that this is my actual state of being now. I am embodying my higher self, as an example. I am embodying balance within, as an example. I am embodying inner union. It means this is my embodiment. This is what I am. So it moves away from this is what I understand through the intellectual mind into this is what I am. Does that make sense? So the embodiment is the I am presence, right? I am consciousness. I am higher self. I am God, source, creation, all that is. I am a creator. I am an inner balance. I am that. And so therefore, that is my embodiment. It's no longer a mental construct. It's no longer something that I understand mentally or that I'm trying to explain to myself so that my mind can grasp it. Now we've moved into the point of this is just what I am. This is my existence. This is my, I've come back into that higher frequency of the default system of my true vibration, right? That's what embodiment is. I hope that makes sense. And so when I'm talking a lot about embodiment, which I say in tons and tons of my videos, this is what I mean. It's coming out of the mental construct of this is how all of these things work, and I understand that. However, I am not embodying that yet. So I did this, I talked about this in one of my previous videos, and I talk about this in my course as well. And that is that I can write down all sorts of graphs for you guys. And I can have all, you know, hold up how, you know, all the soul structure works. And this is the breakdown, you know, and these are the different tiers of consciousness. And this is the 1D through the 12D, you know, and this is the monadic twins and the split flame twins. And, you know, and I can break all of those things down for you. And it's interesting, right? The mind likes that kind of thing. The ego likes that sort of thing. It's interesting to sort of get into that place, okay, this is how all of it works. And so now I understand how all of it works. And so then what? You know what I'm saying? So on the twin flame path, on an awakening path, we can say that we are mentally understanding things. And that's all fine and good. But until you're actually experiencing these things, so until you're experiencing a spiritual awakening, until you're experiencing a Kundalini awakening, experiencing your gifts coming online, having energetic shifts, experiencing what it is to come back into union, having that awareness that you are true source consciousness, these are experiences. And these become embodiments because you have experienced them. So it's an experiential thing, which basically means coming into that resting place of receiving. I am receiving these experiences because I'm going through a spiritual awakening. And the spiritual awakening is, you know, creating these energetic shifts within me, which are experiential. And as soon as things become experiential, they are no longer of the mind. They are no longer in a place of I'm trying to like explain things in graphs, right? Or in charts, or in, you know, this is how this works. And this is, at the end of the day, you know, I can sit here and talk about all sorts of things, and I will continue to. And they are interesting, and I do it because, as I said in my last video, I'm hoping to really assist people to navigate this path and to know that other people are walking it and other people have walked it. Because when you are going through a spiritual awakening and you are going through a twin flame journey, it can feel very isolating. You know, it can feel like, am I just out here spinning around in la la land and woo woo world, and nobody really knows what I'm going through or what I'm even talking about, and I'm having a hard time communicating what's going on. This is why I create these types of channels, because they assist people to understand that no, you're not crazy, that yes, these things are happening, and yes, these things are happening with other people as well, but also to demystify the whole thing. So it doesn't feel as if, yeah, you're in just like some other galaxy drifting off to, you know, Never Land, and you've lost touch with the body, right? You've lost touch with earth. You've lost touch with grounding. And the thing is that embodiment is like taking all of these things, all of these experiences, and actually embodying them into who you are now. It's taking it into the body. It's a hard thing to really, I think, explain in words. Again, it's a feeling, it's a knowing, it's an experience, and it isn't something that we understand through our mental capacity. But it is something that once we experience these certain things, whether that be, like I say, whatever that is, all the different stages of awakening and all the different stages of ascension, which there are myriad of, they become a part back. It's like we're reintegrating the self with the self. Because as we're coming out of separation and lack and, you know, the programs and the duality and all of these things, we're basically, as I've said in other videos, for me, I sort of look at it as soul retrieval. It's kind of like a soul retrieval in a way of, it's like, okay, you've had your experience in duality, you've had your experience in separation and in the 3D, now it's time to remember who you are. Right? Now it's time to come out of those programs that you've been running and that identification that you're separate from everything else. It's time to drop that now, come out of the dream and come back home to self. And when those things begin happening, it becomes that your embodiment begins to come back online with I am source creation, I am pure consciousness. And in that way, yes, it is organic. It does become organic because this is experiential, because it is not mental. And this is one of the biggest things that I really push on my channel, is that the mind space, when you're talking about awakening and when you're talking about the twin flame path, really cannot help you. So even me like doing all these videos, again, it's sort of just a navigational tool. Everything I share on here really is just a tool to help you guys to be able to better walk the path without getting so wrapped up in your mind. And again, it's a paradoxical situation because we're doing our best as coaches and guides and, you know, teachers and whatever else to sort of put our hand out and, you know, help to hold other people's hands through this, which I had as well walking through this. You know, I didn't just figure all this out on my own. I've had a lot of help as well. And just kind of, it's just guiding you through the experience more than it is guiding you through the mental awareness. Because the mental awareness is only going to get you so far, because until you experience these things, they don't become embodiments. But as you experience them, they do, because it's basically the self coming back online. The self is waking up from the dream. And so as the self is waking up from the dream, it's waking up out of the illusion of separation in 3D and lack. From there, your vibration is automatically rising back up. Your frequency is automatically rising back up, because the lower densities that you've been carrying around in this incarnation are shifting out. This is what the Kundalini awakening does. You know, it's shifting out all of those lower vibrational programmings and densities and belief systems that we've been carrying around for a long, long time. And so as this happens, yes, the true embodiment of self naturally and organically will start to come back online. So hopefully that answers your question. The thing about having tools to navigate this, and especially when you're on a twin flame path, is because the mind gets so wrapped up in what this path is. And it gets so wrapped up in needing to figure it out and needing to nail it down and to understand it in a way that you know, the mind is trying to be in control, right? It's trying to regain control of the vessel. It's trying to get back in the driver's seat. When the awakening begins and the ascension begins and the activation from the twin begins, whether that came on physically or whether that came on energetically, because it can happen both ways, the system starts to shift, right? I keep saying this, your energetic system shifts from a heavy laden system into more of a light-based system, which is who you naturally are. And so as this happens, the constructs begin to fade. Everything that you are not begins to get broken loose. This is what ego death is, the dark night of the soul. These things naturally, organically start to shed away. And as they do, and those identities that you've been holding on to, unawareingly that you've been holding on to, unawareingly isn't a word, unconsciously that you've been holding on to, those things start to shed. This is why awakening feels so destructive. This is why I always say, awakening is not rainbows and butterflies. It's a very, very deep, dark process into self in ways that you have not explored before. And in that way, it's a destructive process because it's breaking away the aspects of you that are not you. And so when that's happening, the mind is doing everything it can to understand, to regain control, to get back in the driver's seat, to make sure that it's the master and that it's doing this and that it's doing that. And it's, right? It always has to be doing and doing and doing. That's what the mental body does. That's why the masculine polarity is generally very productive, very busy, very go. And when they're not doing that, they feel like, you know, they're not being in, you know, they're not being helpful in some way, or they're not being in their masculinity in some way, or whatever that might be. So what this process is really showing you is that there is a receptivity that has to come back online in regard to an awakening path. And that's what the awakening and the ascension is doing. And so when you're shedding all of those things off, naturally, yes, organically, yes, and your vibration is rising, the embodiment of your light, the embodiment of your natural higher frequency is also organic. So yes, it does come back online. It does just become bit by bit your default system. But as I said, the reason that I make videos like this, and the reason that I know other twin flames and awakening coaches do as well, is because it's very easy for you to get tripped up back into the mind constructs of things, which can slow the process down and make things a lot more confusing. And we, the ego, the mind, the emotional body, the pain body, translates that as pain and suffering. So if I can do something, to come on here and make courses and talk to you guys and all of those sort of things to lessen that pain and lessen that suffering that I experienced for years, as I've said in other videos, of course I'm going to do that, right? Of course I'm going to do that. And so really that's what this is about. So hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I just talked in circles for like 16 minutes. So hopefully that makes sense and you understand what that embodiment is. Yes, it's an organic process. Yes, it's going to naturally shift higher and higher as you naturally ascend higher and higher. And yes, at the same time, your mental body and your mental structure can slow this down by trying to constantly understand it, which is why I'm doing my best to make videos in order for you guys to understand what's going on and how that balance works, right?